David Johnson.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's an absolute pleasure to follow my honourable friend and member for Devizes. I wanted to speak in support of the strategic priorities that Ofwat have been given. I think they're right, from protecting and enhancing our environment to using markets to better deliver for customers. Madam Deputy Speaker, it frustrates me as a point of principle that I can't change my water supplier, that I can change my gas and electricity supplier, I can change my broadband and mobile phone supplier. I can't change my water supplier. And I do think that is a problem, because whenever you have what is effectively a monopoly, the chances are the quality of what it does will not be as good as when there is genuine competition, and that makes regulation especially important. Regulation is important in all areas, but in a scenario in which there is only one choice for regions of the country, it is especially important, and I think we've heard this afternoon that job is not being done effectively enough. So I support what the government has said to Ofwat, that actually it should push water companies to be more ambitious in what they do to protect the environment, that it should be pushing them to do a better job on customer service and how they handle complaints, that it should be better promoting competition. I agree with all those things. And thanks to the government's Environment Act, we will have annual reports on storm overflow data. We will have them pushed to reduce the harm of this. We will have, by 2030, them to show that how they're going to achieve zero serious pollution incidents. And all of that is very important on the macro of what's going on in the country as a whole. But like a lot of us, I will look at what is happening locally. And there's really three things, some of which have been touched on, which of course are going on in other people's constituencies too. But there are really three things that I will look at the role of Ofwat, as well as the Environment Agency and others. The first is this issue of releasing sewage into the water, and you would expect me to start there. In 2021, Thames Water released sewage into the waterways around Oxford for more than 68,000 hours. Now, I don't represent Oxford, I'm an Oxfordshire MP, but those waterways are flowing through my constituency like they are every other Oxfordshire MP's constituency and plenty of others beyond that. And it's completely unacceptable and totally against what they should be doing according to their licences. This should be a rare occurrence with very heavy rainfall, and it is anything but. The second related issue is about housing. We have had huge numbers of houses built in my constituency. The largest towns are growing by huge percentages. The biggest one by 42% in 10 years population-wise, the second by 59% population-wise. And the infrastructure hasn't improved. With that, we want Grove Station reopened, we want improvements on the A420 and A34, we want more GP appointments and so on. But, as other members have touched on, we also have this issue about the water and waste connections that go to these new developments. Some of these are huge. Thousands of people moving in. There are two estates just in Didcot, one built, one being built, 18,000 more people. These are big-scale developments, and too often what happens is that these systems are overwhelmed. They're not built strongly enough in the first place. They're easily overwhelmed. Those costs are then very often passed on to the people who've bought those homes by management companies, which is subject for a separate debate. But this, again, is something which should not be happening and that we've got to get a lot better at. But the third, much more local thing, which I don't think any other member who's spoken in this debate is facing in the same way, is that for 30 years now, Thames Water have proposed to build a massive reservoir in my constituency. And despite the fact that that proposal has existed for 30 years, they are still unable to show why it's needed, why it's better than the alternatives, what the environmental impact will be, what the cost is likely to be. We know, thanks to a very dedicated local campaign group called Guard, that some of the assumptions they use when they try to make the case about water demand and so on are wrong. We know from Thames Water's own website that 24% of the water that they supply leaks, which leads a lot of my constituents to say, well, actually, maybe we wouldn't need this reservoir if you fixed your leakage problem. And so when I think about Ofwat and those big strategic priorities that it has, I'm specifically looking on this proposal that as a standalone regulator, it is holding Thames Water to account for being able to answer these big questions that we're posing about this proposal, but that it also does so through RAPID, the alliance with the Environment Agency and the Drinking Water Inspectorate. We haven't heard much about that latter body this afternoon, to make sure that Thames Water cannot behave as many people feel it is behaving, as though this is an inevitability, and whether they can answer those questions or not, they're just going to build the thing, because there is very strong resistance to it, understandably. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, the proof will be in the pudding. I think these are the right priorities for the government to have set, but as we've heard this afternoon, Ofwat will have to do a lot better to persuade all of us and our constituents that it's doing those to the highest standard it could be.